Oh, welcome to another episode of The Growth Compass. Shout out to our sponsor, Senders. If you want to do email deliverability correctly, it's in and below, wherever it is. I don't know. But without them, it would not be possible to interview awesome people doing awesome things like Milosz. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be so cool. All the things that I've read, at least every other sentence contains the word growth. So I think you have a lot of experience doing this. But for anyone that doesn't know, if you could just give a quick update of yourself and what you're building.
Yeah, so I run, together with my wife, a product design studio called Lumi, or a product design and development studio called Lumi, Lumi.studio. I've also been a startup guy and a maker for the last 14 or so years. And I've worked with almost 100 startups doing different product design, growth related things. I had one of my startups was acquired by Atlassian in 2017 and was part of a big exit selling RoboKiller to IAC. In 2019, after that, I sort of left and decided I want to work with purpose-driven startups. And that's sort of where Lumi comes in. And that's the work that we do. We mostly work with either social or climate startups on
Nice.
design development, but from the perspective of how do you do it at a startup that has high potential for growth.
Got it. So how long have you been running the studio?
So I started when I left after the IEC acquisition. I started in just as February 2020. So a great time to start a business.
Yeah, right.
The lucky part was everything was suddenly remote friendly. So I was not at a disadvantage. If I was fine with calls, I could work with companies in Palo Alto and anywhere in the world. So that was good. That worked to our advantage, actually.
Nice.
But I was. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, just so a little bit more clarity about what you were doing beforehand, just about the timeline of how you got to 2020. So this is or is not the first company that you started yourself.
Which one? The studio.
Lumi.
Yeah.
So
No.
it is.
Lumi. Well, I've built a product before and I sold it to Atlassian.
Yeah.
The Lumi is a service company, essentially. So it's a slightly different kind of business. We just are makers for hire, essentially. And
Yeah.
we help teams figure out what to do. But we also built our own products. I built my own products before. We built some experiments and some products as well.
So then one of my favorite questions to ask people, because starting your company is one of the hardest things you could choose to do, I guess, not unknowingly, but at the beginning of a global pandemic as well. So, if you felt like you wanted to, build more products, work with more purpose-driven studios, things like this, you could have looked for a job at a company that you're really passionate about and was purpose driven, but you chose to start your own company. So why was it that you went that direction instead of finding a company to work for?
I mean, I think in the beginning I was actually quite open for the consulting or early days of Lumi leading to a job potentially.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was really just those worlds of climate or social entrepreneurship and hardcore tech product growth are not really that connected. There's few people that sort of overlap both or do both. So there aren't really jobs that are specifically defined that you can apply for. It's more how you make yourself useful to that kind of company. Or if you work with startups, you can co-found a startup, or I'm very good at early stages of companies, and Lumi generally we're very good at helping companies in early stages, pre-Series A, if you follow the VC funding pathway. But the later the company is, the less excited I am about working with them, because of the nature of work changes. So I've learned to sort of step back and find other things that excite me.
Sweet. So then at the beginning of the studio, how did you get your very first clients? Was it through, had you established this network, while
Mm.
working in your corporate job, or did you go about it some other way?
It was a bunch of things. We are based in Scotland, at least the two of us here. We have a team of 11, and one other person is based also in Scotland, but the rest is across the whole world, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but we only had a few clients historically locally here, and I used to run a Tech for Good community here in Scotland. Again, before COVID, we did big meetups and connected like people and technology to charities. Lots of like disillusioned software developers that are looking for some useful way to
Yeah, yeah.
utilize their skills that they don't feel guilty about, and connecting them to charities. And through that, some opportunities came about. But that was also when I sort of understood that purpose-driven companies. I don't like that phrase, but
Okay, yeah,
people
yeah,
that people that build businesses for the right reasons are the people that I want to work with.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Okay,
that was
so
one way of finding them.
yeah, no, cool. So I have questions about you know, if you guys, well, I guess I'll just ask it now. So have you
Mm.
transitioned from like a network based approach, kind of founder led sales type of thing, to a more like repeatable outbound, or have you had enough inbound traffic that it's just not something that you look for?
Mm. I mean, there's 11 of us, so the we like the structure of the business that we have today. It's like really fun to go to work and show up in the morning.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But how it looks like is there's two of us, me and Alexandra, that sort of run the company,
Mhm.
and I usually handle more of the sales side of things, and Alexandra handles more of the marketing. But primarily, we both are the primary contact with the client, and we sort of handle all of the decision making. We're both the lead, like UX or
Yeah,
project leaders, however you want to call it.
yeah, yeah.
But that puts us just in a position that we both really like.
So let's get into the making then, because you
Yeah.
said so. The main reason that you're doing all of this and started it and got into it is because of the product development. So when we say that you're building, are we talking about? I mean, you mentioned hard tech. Is it physical product development? Is it web web app product development? These types of things, or both?
I mean, it will get more complicated. We usually just handle the software and the
Okay.
user experience, but we work, for example, with an IVF clinic called Ovum. They're a German startup, and they're leading on AI and on connecting all of these sensors that scan eggs and like tons of data they feed and into AI, and they have a client app and they have the doctor app, and their sort of promise is that with a better, more data-driven IVF process, you can drastically increase the success rate. And we handle all of the user experience in both the patient and the doctor app and the full visual design.
Okay.
And also figuring out what the app should be like and how it should work and a lot of these things. And we work with their team and with patients. That's an example. The deliverable often is either code or design or both. But often our clients provide like a physical product or a service that involves hardware as well as software.
And so when they work with you guys typically take over the software side of what they offer, even if it's a combination of hardware and software.
Not in that case. In that case, they have a in-house tech team,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're essentially the design team for them.
Oh nice.
But we do also have projects where we do handle everything.
Okay.
But we're not experts in IVF.
Yeah,
So
right.
you don't
So
want us handling that.
yeah. So then as far as from somebody that doesn't have is familiar with like product led growth, like
Mm,
product design, SaaS, like all of those things just by reading from it,
mm,
but I don't have a deep knowledge of it. If you could just explain some of the basic principles of designing a
mm.
user experience on a software, and if it would help, you can. I think it'd be interesting to shape your answer through maybe one of, because I'm sure you love
Mm.
all of the projects, but maybe one of the projects of your favorite
Yeah,
projects.
I I have a maybe more general answer because it is actually pretty simple.
Oh, then let's do that.
It is just annoying, and it is hard, but it is simple.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say for me a lot of it comes back to Lean Startup, Eric Rice and Lean
Okay.
Startup, which are like very popular, very universal principles. They're just not upheld in any meaningful way. So I think when you start a company, you're trying to figure out how is it that you're going to deliver value to people. And this is also why I like the product building, not so much the business building side, because for me, it is a lot more about how do you make something useful to a real person.
Mhm.
So in the IVF example, if more people that want to have babies can have babies now and they don't have to spend their life savings to do that, that's great. Right? That's like a real impact that technology can have on people. So and that's maybe more on the purpose driven example. But generally for me it comes down to like the lean startup principles of how do you what assumptions you have about what you're building, what is the simplest way you can test them, and how do you just systematically move forward and build a product, like turn initial ideas and assumptions into a usable product.
So what does it look like to do that well? Like what does it look
Mm.
like for you guys to? I mean, you can use continue to talk about the IVF company, but as far as those principles, like how do you implement those principles in a way that
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that AI is really helping that for us. So just the speed of prototyping that you can do, and you see that in the reports that say that like 94% of YC companies built their initial prototypes with AI, and
yeah, right.
they should be doing that because it lets you build something and test something in a matter of days or weeks instead of months. Or even hours sometimes. Like this morning, I built 3 games in Claude for people that are recovering from brain tumor surgery. So it's another one of our clients has an app that supports real patients after surgery in
Yeah.
recovery, and NHS doesn't provide here in the UK. Our healthcare provider doesn't provide like tools and guidance that much over time. It's just appointments. But they're running a program where they can provide support with software over time. So we built some games with AI around like recall and memory and executive functions. And in a matter of like 3 hours, I chatted with the doctor that's in charge of uh, the program, and we had 3 tools that we're going to test with patients like next week, and that just didn't happen before. Um, and that said, that's why I said it's simple, but it's still hard because you still like the tools are here, but you still need to apply the critical thinking of and the process of how you break things down into challenges and what do you validate, and being really smart about the tools that you have.
Yeah. So from that perspective, so taking it from, like awesome, we can build these things super quickly and test them.
Yeah.
Like how is it now that we deploy it and measure it and analyze it in a
Mm.
meaningful way? Like you're saying, is there a
Yeah.
software that you use, or is it just like Google Sheet? Like, you know.
I mean, we do use some tools. We also just use Google Sheets. We interview people and just speak to them. Um, I think I really like qualitative interviews, just really talking to people on a video call or in person. And just, I think you can quantitatively get all of those insights and measure certain KPIs, and that's also important. But you also need to just understand how people feel when they go through that process and of doing whatever, using your product, signing up for it, and just what mindset they're in, what situations they're in. And if you interview 3, 5, 7 people, you'll start seeing patterns already. And I think we're a lot better as people, just like understanding subtle cues and things that happen in conversation, rather than have a massive spreadsheet with insights and feeding it into AI and getting insights back. I think you can't really sacrifice that aspect of speaking to people.
So then your guys' process is you build something quickly and then you deploy it and then measure it using a number of tools, but you prefer or put a lot of weight on actual interviews with people and their experience.
I mean, and there is a range of things that teams want to do and scenarios and how these things happen. For people that already have products in production and have enough traffic, we can just A/B test a lot of things as well. And that's where, yeah.
Yeah, well, just interesting question about off of what you said. So you're right. So you're right. Deploy something A/B test based on a lot of traffic, a lot of data available to you. But you mentioned like a specific interest in like super early stage startups and things like that. So when you don't necessarily have the volume or the luxury of the volume to reach statistical significance or something, like how do you navigate helping founders in making significant product decisions, like making the right one?
Yeah, I think it's hard, and it's sort of almost an internal, like, emotional answer to founders often, because often the vision that they have for a product is at odds with what people want, and they somehow have to like triangulate that and figure out like a new vantage point, right, for the product. Like, how are we still doing what we're excited about, but that also people respond to? So we can't really do that because we're not them, but we can give them the information and say, based on like just good UX practices and what we've seen at the like 50 plus companies that we worked with, and based on these interviews or on these tests that we've done, here's what we think. Here is like the 3, 5 options of what we think would likely work. So we can quickly prototype, even as wireframes, different versions of the product or different versions of features. And we found that people are like visual and think much better visually than in words. So when people see, and that's why we also choose design as like our main mode of working, is that when people see something that's tangible, here's how the onboarding works, or here's how we explain the product as if to a user, then they respond much better to that, and they see themselves in that or not.
Yeah. Do you have a recent example of a client that you worked with or something like that where you had to navigate this exactly, where they were early stage, there was, you guys came up with a conclusion, and then there had to be like a hard conversation around, what can actually, happen?
I wouldn't want to probably disclose it as to who that was. Yeah. But we do have people that come to us wanting to build a specific thing.
Okay.
And then we do some research and exploration, and we offer alternatives. We had people that came to us and wanted to build a marketplace, and we didn't really see how it would be a marketplace. And we've given them some other options, including let's build a Chrome extension. that just does this one specific slice that you already know you're good at.
Interesting.
And that was a much better road to market, because you can get a lot more free users through a more tangible product that is like process based, like a browser extension, and you can market it a bit more easily. So go to market's a bit easier in the early stages, and then you can learn from that. And it was smaller scope than what they came with initially as well, so they were not unhappy about that.
That's right. Are there any, given all of the work that you've done across a bunch of different kinds of software products and things, are there common thread, like something, like if somebody has an idea that's listening to this, or I have an idea and there's something that, like a SaaS product that I want to build, are there any common mistakes or common things that people tend to do when building and testing and making product decisions, like common mistakes that people make as far as feature building or whatever, as far as just that like that initial stage? Because I have been a part of a project that ended up going for like 8 months or so. It was a few years ago, and then we just barely deployed, and then it all went away, because life changed, and we didn't find a lot of traction. But I don't think in retrospect we were doing a lot to help ourselves. So yeah, are there any just like general things that people tend to do that they get in their own way?
I think when you care about something, because our clients and everyone that wants to build something, like people go through crazy hoops to raise money for their ideas, and like explain to investors that this is why they should get hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're obviously then very invested in their own vision. But then with that, I think there appears that pull almost not to test it with people. Like people resist testing things. And I think if I see anything is like, what is the lowest stakes conversation or test you can do, conversation you can have, test you can do, a prototype you can build. Like with Claude, you can build a prototype of a landing page in 10 minutes with Lovable and with all these other tools.
Yeah.
And the good thing I'm seeing is that I think smart entrepreneurs will be doing that. And we've had people come to us with full-on Lovable prototypes that work, sort of. And they've shown them to people, and the people said, we like that. They've gotten purchase orders, or they've iterated, and that's the version 3 that they're on. So, but that's all going back to Lean Startup. That's all that Eric Rice was saying, like this, I don't know, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
When Epic came out, is just to find the simplest way you can find the biggest assumptions that you're making and test them early. And people don't want to do that because they don't want to be wrong. But I think you'd rather be wrong without wasting $500,000 that you've spent 5 months raising and like all of your social capital, asking all your friends and family for money, and then you turn out to be wrong. That's
well,
it's terrifying.
I found that something that was hard to do was get people to be honest with you about their actual experience with it. So I'm curious how you get around that when you're interviewing somebody. They just want to tell you that it works, or that they tell you what they think you want to hear. So how do you get around that?
So for that, a great resource is Rob Fitzpatrick's The Mom Test. It's a very short book. But it just is the basics of how do you talk to people, and how do you get real feedback. So I think that the better you are at that, the more chances you have of succeeding. But I think you can either just not directly ask them about what you're building, but just really learn about it. So if you're building an app about, I don't know, finding a place in a coffee shop for working remotely, whatever, as an example, you don't make a mock-up of the app and you go to people in coffee shops and ask if they like it, because they can't be honest with you. You go to them and ask them how they're finding coffee shops, and are they having trouble with that, and what kinds of things they're paying for. And is it their workplace that would be paying for it? And what is like the process of selling to their workplace? Or would they be paying for that individually? Do they travel a lot? Where do they travel? And I think from there, you have to interpret that and then make sense of, is that really a product? And you have to be sort of critical about your own thing, which is hard. And that's what we can do for you.
Right.
And then we have the hard job of being honest with people and saying, we don't really see, based on what we've seen, how this works, but here's another idea. But yeah, that's the process. And that was a big example.
How is it typically? So I see, and it's an awesome website. It's very clean. And the big thing that it says is design that powers growth. So as far as growth goes, how are you defining that? Like when you're saying that, do you mean usership? Do you mean revenue? Is it case by case? Like what do you mean when you say that?
I mean, we do mean paying customers ideally, or however it is that you're making money. Because ultimately people have to run a business. And I think especially purpose-driven companies in like today's climate have to be like doubly more focused on just building a solid business. So we do mean that, and we do mean revenue. But that hopefully means you fulfill the promise of your product and you solve people's problems, or you help them in some way, and you create business value that way, or just value that individuals are willing to pay for if you do like B2C.
Cool. I'm curious with you. I'm curious with you right now, and I love asking this question. All right, so I have two for you, and the first one is, at the moment with where you guys are at, what is the biggest hurdle?
I think we're there are aspects that we're probably not. So we're a small company, and we would like to stay that way. We would like to work with more impactful projects. So like not necessarily finding bigger clients, but just being more in front of bigger problems. And that's not like a thing you can Google and or like ask for introductions to directly. So we're working on that and like building company reputation and just building out the studio so that we can get there. We're also really interested in working with startups in Asia. Just because I think it's a huge market. We lived in Asia for a while, and the things we've seen in like 2016, 2017 are starting to appear here now.
Yeah.
At the same time, like UX wise, their software is typically pretty horrible. So I think there's a gap there for people like us to come and be really helpful and be part of like solving big problems.
Nice.
In China and Japan and Korea and many of these markets, India.
Are there any problems that you're particularly passionate about necessarily?
How do you mean?
Well, just when we say like social impact, purpose driven, climate tech, stuff like this, it's like a really large umbrella. So I'm just curious if there's anything underneath it that you have a particular interest in.
Not really. I just like feeling good about the people that we work with.
Nice.
Personally, I just really like productivity software, which is kind of silly and against that. But the company that I sold was a productivity app, and in my own time, I work on productivity apps and prototypes. So that's probably what I'm passionate about, but it's more like an urge.
Yeah, well, that's important stuff, man. It is important. My last one for you, because it's doing a lot of work, it's really hard, and you're making a lot of good impact, is what inspires you?
What inspires me? I'm I call myself an informed optimist. Uh, so I think like this, despite of like what you feel inside when you look at the world and like different aspects of it, I think there's so much in technology that can be good to people and be helpful in solving like big problems, but also small problems. And I'm just interested in being in that space and working in that space, and like solving problems. And
Nice.
if we can build a business doing that, that's amazing. But if we didn't have a capitalist economy, I'd be doing this for free,
Yeah, yeah,
most
yeah.
likely.
Nice. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing it. Thank you for choosing to do it. If anyone else was interested in following along or connecting, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, find us at lumi.studio. Or if you Google Lumi Studio, we thankfully now show up first.
Nice. Well, awesome. Well, thank you.
And
This is
find me on LinkedIn. And we just released on our site like free AI tools, which is one of our experiments on how you can take some of that like product thinking knowledge and put it in a safe space of interacting with AI. So we have some tools for like product thinking that are free to use, that are AI
nice.
powered. So you don't have to look embarrassed in front of a person.
Well, check it out. Go
Yeah.
do it. Awesome. No, Milosz, thank you so much. I'm
Yeah,
excited to
thank you
stay
so much.
connected and see where you're going. Absolutely.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.